All right.
Yeah, yeah.
I get rid of this.
Good evening. Good evening. Yeah, we're just getting started. So
All right.
I was just talking a little bit about my background.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. Let's do it. Let's get into it. Yeah.
how are you
Cool.
doing, Dr. Unger? How's everything?
Well, crazy, like everybody else, though.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you on the crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, so I could start if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so I saw a couple of quotes recently that I thought were interesting. I put them in the chat. And it's basically Wittgenstein wrote in 1922, like, the limits of my language are the limits of my world. And I found that like to be particularly like resonating with me the more I learn about like how to craft prompts and I was just explaining to Dan like my thinking about um, how my interest in trying to look at image generation AI and try to see if there are ways that it could correlate or it could be used to correlate to increases in creativity. And my thinking was that focusing on the language used to craft prompts, if you want to be good at it, then you have to increase your domain specific knowledge. And domain specific knowledge or awareness has been demonstrated in numerous studies to correlate to enhanced creativity or creative ability. So I thought, okay, this is one avenue that we can focus on in using any kind of AI, like image generation AI, or if you're using it for a particular aim, um, uh, a research or like some endeavor that you're focused on, then developing your semantic fluency in that domain um, is likely to correlate to increases in creativity. And one of the things I found recently, but I'm still working on this, was that students who are not native English speakers, um, when given a challenge to use image generation AI, would go to text generation AI. So they would use Claude, they would use ChatGPT, and they would ask Claude or ChatGPT how to write a prompt for what they wanted. And there were some striking examples that students that were non-native English speakers using AI to write a prompt and then taking that prompt and putting it into Midjourney, which is an image generation AI, um, the outcomes were great. From a creative, so creativity, I must have read 50 papers on the meaning of the definition of creativity. And it's still like, it's very difficult to define that. And it's very sort of in the air, but you can't grab it. You know, it's like you know it when you see it. But assessing the creativity of the images that were generated by non-native English speakers using AI, I felt I felt that they were great. They were much better than the native English speakers that were just writing prompts. It was almost like, but let me just jump back a little bit, and um, I'm getting into the weeds a little bit. I don't want to get into the weeds too much so early, but I think one of the things I want to start off with is like there's so much going on with AI, and it's for me it's like this catalyst for uh, activity in all spectrums of human culture, and it's there's so much happening with it right now that um, there's a danger. What is it like? We should really try to craft a critical consciousness about its use. And like with anything like that I engage in, like sort of just below the surface of the things that I do are always the questions like, what are the potentials of this um, to improve a human community or improve human culture, improve the relationship between human beings? And what did Aeschylus say? Um, to tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world. You know what I mean? So it's like, how can we use something in a way that is going to be that? So I think it's important to discuss the negative impact of AI that is tangible, um, and then with that consciousness about its use, understand what we're doing and understand, like for instance. I read recently a study that estimated that 1 billion milliliters of water per second are used now to cool the servers around the world with AI. That's an enormous quantity of water. And New York Times also had one article where they said that if you were using ChatGPT to write a 100-word email uses the equivalent of like equivalent energy of one light bulb burning for 14 hours. And it uses the equivalent water of a 500 milliliters to write a 100-word email. So if I were to write to my boss, like, wishing him, ask ChatGPT, like, oh, can you write a 100-word email to my boss, just explaining a happy birthday to them, and it's such, whatever, 100 words. That's going to use equivalent energy of a light bulb burning for 14 hours and 500 milliliters of water. And so that's like sort of understanding the energy impact of it. But then there's also the cultural impact, because sustainability is not merely about energy consumption. It's also about human cultural consumption and what's happening on a human cultural level. So, and this is from my personal perspective, which is like, I read a New York Times article like back in the 90s that correlated like young student achievement with learning to play chess. So I played a lot of chess when I was younger. So I was like, oh, let me start an after school program at the community center and I'll just teach kids how to play chess. So like 2 days a week, I just started volunteering, teaching kids how to play chess. And I immediately was struck like, wow, teaching is great. It's so great. It's so rewarding to see people learn and to grow and to see their abilities expand. Like, and then I became a graduate teaching assistant for the structural analysis course sequence at the University of Buffalo. And again, I was just like, wow, teaching it's such a deeply rewarding thing that I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life. Like, I don't see ever not wanting to do this. So, but what's happening now in a lot of schools is that these graduate teaching assistants are being replaced by AI. So the sort of like law schools are using it for graduate teaching, which is good because teaching assistants have office hours, and you a couple hours a week you sit, and then after those couple of hours you're not there. What's great about having the AI as a teaching assistant is it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So when you're doing work at 2 o'clock in the morning, you have a question. The TA is not there to help you, but AI is going to be there to help you. So a lot of teaching assistants are being replaced, but that's cutting off. It's cutting off the upstream flow of the future profession, and that's happening in many professions, not just teaching. So not just in education. So that's the sort of cultural impact that sustainability, adopting AI in many endeavors, we need to consider the sort of long-term sustainability prospect and impact on the prospering of human culture. So with that said, um, I'm sorry, hold on one second. Um, Give me one second. It's just telling me my iPad is low on battery. Okay, we should be okay. Um, but if I'm like someplace where the internet is not good, so I'm using my iPad to connect to the internet. So if for some reason it gets low, I may need to just pause the recording for a second and just get
Sure.
on a different Wi-Fi. So just it may not happen for 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes. So so with that said, it's enormously rewarding to work with. And it's like I read another study that correlated like starting in 2023, peer-reviewed articles, um, the use of certain words in peer-reviewed articles went up dramatically, and they speculated that those certain words that were used in the peer-reviewed articles were words that were very commonly used by like AI, text AI, like ChatGPT, say. So they correlated that to people who were supposed to be peer reviewing articles just putting the articles into ChatGPT and asking it to write a peer review and then submitting that AI generated peer review to the journal. And so they correlated that to possibly diminished in critical thinking skills, uh, which could easily be I could easily see being correlated. But so these are some of the things that we need to be conscious of in using it. And these are the things that I try to be cautious of and I try to talk to people about. Because if you're aware of the dangers of using something, then you can consciously work in a way that will avoid that. So anyway, I just wanted to sort of talk about that in the beginning. But so I use Midjourney, which is like
Can I
it's an
interrupt
im
for a second, William? Can I just
yeah,
let
please.
me
Yeah.
just I want to stop for a second. Maybe you guys did this already, but I just wanted to kind of uh insert a couple real quick things. First of all, Dan, what did you want to find out about tonight?
Yeah.
I'm just on a mission to keep learning more about more
Okay,
tools. So I'm interested in anything like this.
yeah. Let me okay, cool. So that's cool. And William, I just want to pin this. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think there's a couple of things interesting to note that you just comment on a couple of things, right? It's
Mm,
very interesting that at least LLMs, as far as I understand them, which is not to say I know a lot,
mm.
is all text-based. It,
Um, yeah, so I think with image generation, like image generation AI, like Midjourney, they also have an LLM that they're referencing. Like they have a database. I think it's almost 5 billion images that
right. But I
they're
guess what I'm saying is that when you were talking about the kids who are doing the prompts with, non-native language, and it's like
mm,
every, it's like there's a prompt which is all
mhm,
language based.
mhm,
So even the choice of words, to your
mm,
point,
yeah,
and how you construct
yes,
the linear connections of the words, and
mm,
the LLM, as far as I understand, in a very superficial way, is just
mm,
looking at what kinds of words are associated with other words and in what order. So
mm,
it's
mm,
almost
mm,
like it's all, I mean, I just want to recognize that that's how I think LLMs, which I have a very unsophisticated view of it,
yeah,
is very interesting. So the language is like no small thing. If I don't use specificity, if I don't
mhm,
use specific kinds of words, it's
mm,
gonna, it's like there's a whole process that needs. So
yeah,
I just want to recognize that, and also then when you think about images or creativity,
mm,
it's, we do, you did a quote. I think a lot about this a lot. It's like how much does language
yeah,
in our facility of the language, how does that correlate to our intelligence, which is, I mean that broadly. Because
yeah,
if you only have 50 words, you can only associate 50 words with 50 things,
mm,
versus you have a 3,000 or 5,000 or 10,000.
yeah.
So there's just a lot of interesting things it raises that you are also talking about. I just
No, that reminds me of a really great point that was made about the use of language, which is like throughout history. If you give me a second, can I
yeah,
share screen? Is that okay?
yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
Share screen and then share. I have a slideshow here. Let me just jump to it somewhere. Um, Here, this one. So this is a slideshow I gave recently where I talk about language. Um, so throughout all languages around the world, like the cultural evolution of language, there are words that correlate to different colors. And the pattern in all languages, and this was taken from Radiolab, Why is the Sky Blue? That's the reference for this. So in all languages, um, the first two sounds that correlate to colors are, for us, it's black and white. And then as the language develops, the next color to develop a word is red, and then yellow. And the last color to evolve to have a word was the color blue. So in the Homer, in the Iliad, like they never use the word blue. In the study that they cite many uses of the term red and white and black and green and yellow, but there's no use of the word blue. And so it's like that's kind of how I'm thinking about AI right now, how like expanding our concept of words. Like if you look at a bell curve that I sort of general chart that I made that shows like let me see. Can you see it? It just shows like the sort of the distribution use of words according to light. and how like the in the middle, the most common uses of words are like bright, dim, natural, soft, harsh. These are common uses of words. But if you, for me, expanding your understanding of light means moving to the edges, to words that are used that are rare. Like, so that involves, and for me, that involved AI because I was asking ChatGPT and other AI, like Claude and other AI, like Perplexity, to find very rare words that describe light. So by using these words like apricity, no, ecliptic, superluminal, like umbrosity, like using these words in your prompts, for me, they correlated to better images. And I can show examples of that, but it's so for me, that's like how expanding creativity or creative thinking um, is a function of to an extent it's a function of language because
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
it is a function of language to an extent. I think Chomsky talks about this when he says like
I wonder if you could, because I don't think, Dan, have you played with Midjourney at all? Have you played? I think if you could just,
No.
we
yeah
can get into the weeds, but I think just showing Dan how Midjourney
yeah 10-4
actually works, and
yeah
then
let's do it.
we could get into the,
Okay, sounds great. So I did a let me see here. Am I sharing right now? Yeah,
yeah.
okay, good. Um, let me go to Midjourney. All right, hold on a second.
I didn't like Midjourney before. I got,
Yeah.
because I had to go through Discord and it was weird and all that stuff, but now I'm glad it's like
Yeah.
Yeah,
interface is so much. Oh, you are using that interface? Because I use
you can use this other one. This one,
huh?
there's this interface also. This is the other Midjourney interface.
Yeah, that one. That to me seems much simpler.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. I guess I learned on this one. But yeah,
That
this
to
one,
me feels I mean, this is the one I can, I mean,
yeah,
it's midjourney.com. That's what I use. Are you
yeah,
there at midjourney.com?
yeah. This is Midjourney.com. The other one I think is Discord.com. Yeah.
I know this one to me is much easier, but I mean,
One good thing about this is of using this one is you can go to like the newbie rooms. A newbie room is like when you first create an account on Discord,
yeah,
and you go to Midjourney. Newbie rooms is where all the people who are just joining are
yeah,
writing.
yeah,
And
yeah,
for me, that's really good because it helped me a lot because I started to look at like all the different ways that people were
yeah, yeah,
writing,
yeah, yeah.
and
But
that
I'm
really
wondering if
accelerated my learning. You know.
Dan, just for Dan, I think it's easier to start with the other platform because it's just
Yeah, sure. So
much
this one.
more accessible.
Okay. Yeah, let's
And
do it.
Dan, you can play with it too while you're on, by the way. It's midjourney.com. I don't think you have to, I think you can create things without paying, right? I think
You know, I haven't. I registered for this a few years ago, so I'm not
I don't
sure.
know. Am I paying for this? I'm not sure.
I know it's not. I'm not sure.
Um,
Is
anyway,
Dr. Unger, is it the prompt? I don't usually prompt from here. Is it the same format prompting from here? I usually use this just to go through my images to find images because it's faster.
well, I can show
But
you. So here's what I
should I
have.
stop sharing?
I
Yeah.
did. This is what I have. So
Okay.
we hit create. And so Dan, you should play with
Okay.
it too while we do this, right? So you hit at create, and then you get this prompt up here, and you say, to your point, right? Give me a image of a black and white dog. Just so that's like, and then it takes a while to generate.
Yeah.
Um, but then Dan, are you able to like get in? Are you able to create anything in it in midjourney.com, or do you have to sign up for something?
I'm getting there right now. So yeah, you can keep going. I'm watching and I'm creating at the same time or getting in the account.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
then if we say provide me with a image of a dog with um dog parts I don't know, chartreuse. Is that a, I don't know. I don't know. You know better than me. Chartreuse,
Chartreuse. Yeah, let's see what happens. I mean,
a
let's
chartreuse? And let's give another like crazy color. William, what do you got?
iridescent. I don't know. Iridescence.
An
Iridescence.
iridescent. What?
Iridescence, maybe. I don't know.
And what color? What other color? Oh, a sienna. The
There
color
we go.
sienna. My daughter's name's Sienna, so I'm gonna use that color.
Okay.
That's another story. Then you get something very and make a unique. I mean, even using this word, make a unique pattern. Kids
Yeah.
might not say that. Right? It's just and pattern is another language. Like people don't say, just to highlight the. Oh, what's that? No, I meant to do this.
I should say too, yeah, like I feel like my understanding of this is not that deep. Like my understanding of exactly what Midjourney is doing right now, it's like I've read a bunch of articles about it, but I still feel like I only have a superficial understanding of how it's working. Look at
Oh,
that.
look at this. I mean, this is just like this is very different than these.
Yes, yeah.
Like what happened there?
It's great.
Anyway. So
Oh, you have the chaos. You have the
wanted
chaos.
to, I just want because I know Dan wanted to kind of get into like the image creation and stuff, so I wanted to get so yeah, okay. I'll stop sharing. You can continue with your stuff. I
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's nice to see you have the chaos set. You have the chaos set, and that's great. Set it
don't
in.
know what did I
See how
yeah,
it's chaos 45 and
yeah.
stop 500?
Yeah, so I can do this, right? And I can do
Oh,
this
that's easy,
style.
maybe. Got you. Okay.
I can do this and I can do
Ah,
this.
weirdness. Yeah, yeah.
Wait,
Okay. That
wait.
yeah, I haven't played with the sliders like this. I usually
And
just
what?
fast. Got you.
Turbo, fast, fast. I don't
Yeah.
know. Does it do it now? I don't know. What am I supposed to hit now?
Maybe just return and see what happens.
Um, maybe. I
Maybe,
don't
maybe just
know.
go back.
I know, but I can't. It's not. I mean, I didn't copy and paste the original. Well, I should have done that. Reset. How do I get out of this thing?
Just
Here we go. Here we go. Where is it? Oh, here we go.
yeah.
All right. Let me get. I'm gonna copy this.
Mm,
Go here. Stylization, weirdness way up, variety way up.
okay.
Um, and oh, now oh, so I did it. I don't know why it's. I'll paste it again here.
Mm,
Maybe that's what I have to do. I don't know. Oh,
here
here it
we go.
goes.
Yeah.
Whoa!
Look at that.
Whoa!
Yes. Oh my God. It's
Whoa!
yeah. It's just an endless. It's just like it's amazing. It's just startling. Look at they're all beautiful, They're all like
Well, it's just
yeah.
all right. So sorry, I interrupted your, but
No,
I
that's
just wanted to get Dan on and playing with it while we're
yeah.
talking. We can, but this is, I mean, I don't know. So okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
It's okay. Yeah. No, no, it's okay. Just let me give me 1 second. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um yeah, so I forgot exactly what we were talking about. Oh, so here's another thing. Like this on the right-hand side in the text box, I put this is another Mark
yeah.
Twain.
Good. Share screen again.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Um
So just heads up, I ran into a paywall to try to get into.
Oh, you did?
okay.
Yeah, so I'm gonna watch you all, which is fine.
I think it's like $10 for a month, right?
I'm not sure. I have it set up. This is dangerous, but I have it set up on like automatic payment. So, so
I think I have. I think it's 10. I
is
think
it?
it's $10 a month or something like that.
I'm not sure, but there's another quote I put in the chat over here on the side. It says, "I apologize for such a long letter." This is a Mark Twain quote. "I apologize for such a long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's also with writing a prompt,
Right,
Dan.
right.
Like if you're writing a prompt, sometimes using it like describing every little thing is not really going to help you. So that's why you want to sort of choose your words carefully and precisely and in a considered way. And I'll show you what I mean. Let's just jump to
The share screen though. Yeah, go.
yeah, there we go. And let me just jump to so we can look at some of the a student came to me and they wanted help. They teach a they started a library in Guatemala and they're interested in making a children's book. So I sort of worked with them for a while to try to do that. And some of the prompts and working on a prompt is like a process. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through this to try to find where we started. Yeah. Working on a prompt is like a process. And for me, that's the playful part of it. It's like there's the two famous quotes that I always think of, Dan. It's like one is like the Miles Davis quote, like "Do not fear mistakes, there are none." And then like the other famous quote is sort of the same thing, but like on the same street, but maybe the other side of the street, which is like Keith Richards' quote, which is like, "Don't worry if you make a mistake, just repeat it." So like writing these prompts, it's just fun. Like we were just like Dr. Unger was
That
just
is
doing.
that is an important point that I think is also really important to, again, just highlighting that the ability to craft things very quickly and iterate on it is
Yeah.
something you can do in AI that you can't do typically. Like, let me try. It reminds me, I could get this wrong. Picasso's Guernica, right? Like,
Yeah.
it took him hours and hours to continue, but this just,
Mm.
I don't know. There's something about that that's important.
Yeah, that's like from like my background in using it is architectural. So because that's where like my experience comes from. So when thinking about making space, like for me, it's just an enormous catalyst for creativity because you could just it just the volume with which and the speed with which it
Yeah,
produces
yeah.
images. I'm sorry?
Yeah. That's actually an interesting other point, right? And Dan, I mean, it's like you can create and see things and iterate on it so quickly, which is
Yeah.
you don't, that, and I would argue that supports creativity if that's your focus, right? William, it's like try lots of things. You're still in the driver's seat. You have to make judgment calls. By the way, in terms of language, I know I'm kind of in terms of language, I did this real quickly, and I don't know how this. The question is, what is the AI platform using to create these things? So think about language and how much information I gave. I gave this prompt, and
Mm.
so here's the prompt. I'm going to tell you, and then I said this prompt specifically because I was wondering how the AI platform would interpret these words. Okay, let's put it that way. So here's the prompt. Give me an image that depicts the current state of political divisiveness in America. That's a very open-ended, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
didn't,
Yeah.
I didn't, I
Yeah.
didn't name anybody.
Yeah.
I didn't talk about size or whatever,
Mm.
but I'm gonna show you.
Stop the share. Yeah.
Are you ready? So, you know, I didn't say any. That's all I said,
Yeah.
right? So it's interesting. What is it? Okay, so here we go. You ready for this? Here we go. I mean, where is it getting its? How is it interpreting? You know what I mean?
Dr. Unger, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I hear you now. You were out for a
Okay.
second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, wow. Yeah, that's let me see here.
There's so that's another thing, William, and I mean I'll make this a conversation to Dan interject. You want like I've been saying that people say, "Oh, they're just shortcutting." When I say, "Well, it just gives me
Mm.
image and I can hand it in and get an A from my art class." No, but
Mm.
how do you use it to push ingenuity and creativity and so on? Like, so there are judgment calls to be made here. Like, is this a good out? What do I like? What
Mm.
do I not like? Is it the right output? What's wrong? I mean, there's so much critical. I mean, this is what, oh, it bypasses critical thinking. It bypasses, no, it, it actually it raises the question, right?
Mm.
Because it gave me these two.
Yeah.
It gave me this one.
Wow.
What's what's going on there? Like
Yeah.
why is there why there's a whole bunch of questions and then there's this.
Yeah.
Where's that coming from? What does
The
this mean?
ancient the ancient Romans had this definition of a, what a genius was, and they didn't really believe, like ancient Greeks and ancient Romans didn't really believe in the concept of genius. They attributed like the mastery associated with a great work as like these beings, spirits that would hand of the artist that was producing the work. And for me, in some ways, that's what this is. This is like it's a man like AI is like a manifestation of the sort of genie or like early concept of genius, which is like it's giving you it's sort of guiding your hand in your thinking process, right? So you have some inkling of thought of like what you're interested in creating, and it immediately gives you these iterations that are asking you questions. They're saying like, oh, what does this mean, or what does this unexpected
Well,
juxtaposition
no,
mean?
I would argue though, and I'm having Dan's mindset in my head too, right? Is like it
Yeah.
it it you start to ask it lots of questions, but not everybody starts to ask
Okay.
questions. People
Okay.
receive it. You're integrate.
uh,
You have a you see what I'm saying? You have a mindset to interrogate and question and reflect on. That's just your nature. My son, that's your nature, but that's not everybody's nature.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll take that and I'll do
And
that.
to me that's also there's like black market LLMs and gray market LLMs, and that's where you can a black market LLM is an LLM where you can adjust the political disposition of the answers that it gives you, or you can adjust the like a black market LLM or gray market LLM. You could adjust the political opinions or the economic perspectives of the LLM. So if you write an answer like are immigrants, are immigrants a hindrance to economic development in the United States? Depending on how you can alter the LLM, that can give you a response. And so that's why I think like a sort of critical eye, like looking at what they're doing is so important when you're working with AI with AI. Like that's why I think interrogating it and not sort of just like not just I mean with creating images, it's not so you can't really do that so much. You know what I mean? You can't sort of craft a political disposition in a space that you're
So
making.
again, I'm putting on. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, Dan, but I'm putting on Dan's hat. It was like when teachers are questioning, like, does it help critical thinking, problem solving, intellectual discourse, intellectual engagement? And it's sort of like, and I just threw this into Dolly. I did the exact same prompt, exact
Okay.
same,
Oh, cool.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm like,
Wow.
Mm.
Wow.
it doesn't really,
Yeah.
but like, why, so. This versus this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like what I mean, it's
Yeah. It's remarkable. It's
the yeah, I mean the mid journey, I would you guys tell, I mean mid journey to me is like doing something extraordinarily different.
Yeah.
mm,
Like
mm.
it did a great
It's
job of those dogs. Like that was impressive. But now it's like when you give it this sort of prompt, it makes no sense to me.
yeah.
How
It's
how it's generating that.
Yeah, right?
yeah. I mean, in many ways, it's like in many ways it's art. I mean, it's definitely like it definitely has dimensions of human art, artistic
So
endeavor.
where is the art in so William, to your point, because this is what you're
For
down.
me,
What
for me, it's about it's
where's the
existential.
artist? Where is you, the artist? Where is the human in this?
So for me, like there's a couple different answers here. So for me, a little bit like art is art is it confronts us with existential questions about who we are, what our values are, who we are, how we're living our lives. Like, and for me, that's part of the role of the artist is to share their experiences so that we can sort of enter into unison with the artist's perspective and sort of be moved along with their thinking in experiencing their work. So that's part of it. But for me, there's a bit of a disconnect because because I'm conscious that there's no direct human that's that's manifesting these works. So for me, it's like part of like if I look at a Van Gogh painting, I I value it as high art because I I I know it came from a person and I understand that it's a reflection of their experience. So, but when I look at like the flag that looks like it's pooling in blood and it's like kind of has an angle, it's I'm still having the same experience as when I go into a museum and maybe I don't know the artist and I'm just looking at it. Like it still has that same experience where I start to question myself. Okay, what does this mean? What does the experience of this mean to me? What could it mean? What might the artist be thinking? So it has that experiential dimension of art, but it doesn't it doesn't it doesn't and maybe that's part of the definition of art, which is that it comes from a human being and there's that empathetic connection, knowing that it was produced by another person. And it's I mean, you could fool people, right? You could create a museum and say like all this work was created with art with you by humans, like create a fake artist and put a bunch of like photographs or make a find a gallery, put a bunch of artwork up and say it was created by humans and have people go in and see it would have a different experience of the art than if it was just if it was an actual human being that was doing it. You know what I mean? At the end, if you told them, oh, it wasn't a real person, for me there would be like a little bit of like frustration with that. Like, oh, that was not I would like it seems like it's easy to trick people, you know what I mean, into thinking it's like real art. But
Oh yeah, no, that's a whole other thing. I mean, this is going to happen all left and right. It's already
yeah,
happening. Or creating
yeah.
things left and right that are not.
Yeah, so so that's the question of art. It's I don't know, I don't really I've been struggling with this for years, thinking about sort of the answer to this
Well,
question.
let's go back to your inquiry around this mid journey for this personal exploration that you're
Yeah.
engaged in. It's around the question. The central question is what?
You mean my personal like investigation?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so what I'm looking at really is like how language and like how semantic like fluency and like expanding your linguistic ability can correlate to sort of increased creativity and increased creative prompts, like increased image creativity in the images that are generated. So a lot of times, like when I start a prompt, the images that come out are not so good, and they're kind of, for me, they feel a little flat. But then I'll start um, researching different words or researching different other artists that might add a influence to the work that I'm looking for. And then suddenly the work seems to me to get stronger and more creatively valuable. Um, so that's my personal interest is in how creativity can be expanded through this. And for me, it's all about the Wittgenstein quote, like the limits of my language are the limits of my world. So it's like how can I how can I understand the formatting of prompts? How putting combinations of words in certain orders does that impact the quality of the final image? I think it does. I've followed like different patterns that other people have used, but I don't find them to be like I'll watch YouTube videos about how different experts use Midjourney, and they format prompts in certain ways, and I find if I follow their prompts that I don't really get the effect that I need, that I'm looking for. They seem to fall flat. And part of my thinking goes back to that bell curve that I showed earlier. Like if you're
Mhm.
using and Dan, this goes back to like a simple statistic, like In 2023, 10% of all internet content, which is an enormous amount of quantity of content, 10% was generated by AI. And by 2026, it's estimated that 90% of all internet content will
Oh,
be generated by AI.
holy.
So it's like, it's for me, it's like following these common words or these common prompt like orders. Um, it's just generating images that the internet is getting sort of filled up with all these AI generated images according to these prompts. So by switching that up a little bit, by using words that are rarely used in contemporary language, it forces the algorithm to reach deeper into its sort of into its image category, its image library, or its LLM to try to find sources. This is how I'm thinking of it, to try to find sources that are less common and therefore they come out more, and to my evaluation, like more creative. So I'm not sure if that makes sense, and I'm still trying to just play with it. I'm trying to do it with a spirit of like play, but
It does. I actually like that bell curve slide a lot. That was fascinating. But
so, yeah, this one,
it's
yeah,
similar. I wondered how you landed on Midjourney because I I played with the Adobe Firefly, and I had a similar experience where I think I asked for a prompt. I was trying to make an image for our website about AI with equity,
okay,
and give me a picture of K to 12 students, equity, and AI, and I just had to massage that prompt. It took me, probably a half hour to get what I wanted, but it was like, I had to keep iterating. I had to keep choosing different words to get the image I wanted. I finally got it, but it's definitely a
yeah.
process.
It is a
Yeah.
process. Like one of the things I did recently was I was working with a student, and I'll just share screen quick, and they were building a course around Black History Month, and so let me just jump to some of
Is
those.
this Michael or something else? Is
Yeah,
this
this is
Michael?
Michael. Yeah, this is Michael.
So Dan,
So
just so you know, Michael Kitchen, who's in our class, is working on how to create. Is working with William. William's helping him some on how to create. I don't know, an interactive exhibit
yeah,
about
it's
races in North Carolina in the 1800s, I believe. Or,
18, yeah, 1898, I think. So yeah, these are some of the images we came up with, and it was when I started, I started I started to do some prep work before I met with Michael, and I looked up like, okay, essential moments of Black history. I looked up like I don't think I have the windows open anymore, but icons of Black history. And so I started playing with some prompts before I met with Michael, just so I would have some like um, understanding of like examples to show him and like things to work on. So one of the things that was I looked up like a famous photographer, civil rights photographer. So his name was Warren Leffler. So I put his name into the prompt, and then I sort of like a 1960s vintage era black and white photograph, cinematic shot, ultra wide angle. So you can put all of these terms in to try to give you like the
these
image
are
that you might.
incredible shots. Can you zoom in on that? Look at that. That's Dan. William created that AI. That's
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
that's
like to
crazy.
me, it's like a
oh,
startling technology in this way. It's like just for me, it gives us new perspectives. We can explore new dimensions and new perspectives of historic places by like just doing some research, like looking up the famous photographer. So like one of the things I did also was like I looked up Frederick Douglass. I wanted to the Emancipation Proclamation, another like it's a pivotal moment in American history, and I put Abraham Lincoln, and it did generate some images that looked like Abraham Lincoln, but it was not generate. I put Frederick Douglass like seated together, signing the Emancipation Proclamation, looking thoughtfully. So that's another thing you can do in Midjourney, which is like if you describe someone's look, it means you're gonna see a portion of their face. If you don't put that in, then you'll just see them from behind or something. So it's like it's almost like the Midjourney doesn't know how important it is to see someone's face. So it won't know, but if you put words in like looking thoughtfully or like looking curiously or some looking inquisitively, then you'll see that look and it will craft that image into their thinking, into the disposition of their face. So, but it was not capturing for me like my awareness of what Frederick Douglass looked like. So after I got off with Michael, I actually continued to play with the image because I wanted to get one that I thought was like I was not satisfied with that. So I uploaded an image of Frederick Douglass here. I went online, I found an image of Frederick Douglass, and so I uploaded that into Midjourney. And I put basically the same prompt, but I researched a little bit like vintage sepia glass plate photograph, cinematic shot in the style of Alexander Gardner, who was the photographer. He was a very famous like photographer. He photographed Abraham Lincoln. So if you can do some research and like if you're trying to create a simple prompt, research and try to pick like essential words that will really give you the image that you want. So Alexander I'm Garnet, I'm not sure how to say his name, but Frederick Douglass seated and signing the Emancipation Proclamation, looking thoughtfully, cinematic shot, and now it started to get images that to me look more because I also uploaded the image of Frederick Douglass in the prompt, so it was now giving me images that to me, okay, this looks like a younger Frederick Douglass. So it's like that's what I mean about that, like the Mark Twain, like I apologize for writing such a long letter. I didn't have time to write a short one. It's like you said, it takes hours or 30 minutes or 40 minutes to just work on one prompt to get an image that you want. But does that make sense? Am I making sense with this? Like,
Yes, it's fascinating. It's interesting. You had to upload. I'm surprised you had to
yeah.
upload the image of Frederick Douglass and it wouldn't
Yeah.
scrape the web to find that image for you.
But I think that's part of the sort of critical consciousness that we have to be aware of, which is that all of the inherent bias and prejudice that's pervasive in human experience is also part of the internet. And I attribute Midjourney's inability to portray Frederick Douglass to that bias. Like if we look at the images of Abraham Lincoln, they all have some quality of like, okay, this looks a little bit like Abraham Lincoln. It's not perfect, you know what I mean? But there's some quality there where if you were flipping through a history book and you saw something like this, you might say, okay, that's Abraham Lincoln. But when you look at the images of Frederick Douglass, like, okay, to me, that looks a little bit like Abraham Lincoln, but that does not look at all like, to me, that does not look at all like Frederick Douglass. And to me, that's part of the inherent bias that is built into large language models that we have to like view it with the critical eye. And yeah, it's just part of the process. That's why I think it's important to be aware of it and to sort of find a way to work around it. And if it means like uploading an image, then that's another avenue you can take to really try to get it. It's a tool, you know what I mean? For me, AI is like a tool to help you get what you want. But there's if you're going after a certain thing, like okay, I want this picture. Like when I was doing Martin Luther King, I wanted in my mind, I was like, okay, I want to create this picture. So let me work on that. And that's what I worked on. And I was happy with the images that I got. To me, it seemed great. Like it drew on the photographer, the civil rights photographer. It drew on the location with the Washington Monument in the back, like standing on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, like with throngs of people. To me, it was very successful. And then we did this other one, and this was also very successful actually. This was the Wilmington massacre. Was it November 10th, 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina? So this was the Michael Kitchen's project for Black History Month. He wanted to create a course around Black History Month. So we decided to try to look at like famous moments in Black history. So I started off with like we can just go through it quickly. I started off with simple prompts, but they were not really giving us. And this was another thing. Like I found, I interrogated these images after I got off with Michael, and I looked closer and closer. Now, if you read them, it's this was the first one: vintage sepia glass plate photograph, cinematic shot, ultra wide angle shot, cinematic shot. I put that twice. That was a mistake. Documentary style, dynamic shot, Wilmington massacre of 1898 in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it doesn't really show us that much of a massacre, right? It doesn't show us this, but later on in the prompt, we uploaded an image. The images were getting better as we added certain words like violent racial massacre, post-reconstruction, um, dynamic style. We were adding like just playing with the prompt and then growing the prompts that we thought were good. We would vary those and get variations of those, which we thought were good. And we were getting like prompts that felt more to me that could be reflective of what that was like, right? So what that um, what that massacre was like. So then we found a photo. I went online and I found a photo of that event. So if we just take a look, so this was an actual photo, right? So what you can see here, and I think this is part of this is an important point. So I just want to make this, what you see here is like, you see all of these white people standing in front of this building that's been burnt out, right? So so the riot was this Wilmington massacre was where a bunch of white supremacists went into this town um, and destroyed it because it was I don't know a lot about it, but Michael explained it to me. But when you look at some of the images that were generated, let me see this. Um, a lot of the people standing here, um, they don't, it's hard to read some of their faces, but they look to me like a good portion of them look to be like African Americans, and that to me that could be a bias that's in the system. That's like it shows people here that are all like African Americans. It looks like, right? When you zoom in on it, it doesn't. To me, this doesn't look like a lot of white people here. You know what I mean? So that's part of the inherent bias where you suddenly we put in words violent, white supremacists overthrow local government, and it shows a bunch of African Americans, but that's not the reality. When I was working on this with Michael, I didn't notice that at first. But after I got off with him, I was interrogating the images. Because if you look at the image we uploaded, it's a bunch of white people standing in front of a building that they burned down as part of this massacre. But when you look at the images that were generated by Midjourney, it shows the exact opposite. And so that's why like interrogating the images like deeply and looking at what it's doing, it's part of the inherent bias that can craft a consciousness that can put in us this sort of subliminal message of a false experience. You know what I mean? It can sort of lie to us about things. So we have to be careful about the images that it makes and look at them in a very critical way. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a great example of bias. Like, I'm just wondering, how would I how would I provide this tool to students? Like,
Oh,
it would,
That's a good.
oh,
it would have to be high school for starters. Like, that's the only place I would even
Mm,
entertain it. But like, it's like we're adults and we know the
yeah, but I
historic.
think that's exactly the point, right, Dan? I mean, I think this is the investigation, and I think the inquiry is like you don't, the subtlety and the inquiry and the interrogation of what is really going on here, and is there inherent bias or not? How are you getting? I mean, that's 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 where I land. I'll just say
mm,
that is that either students are going to do it anyway and not be intellectually engage in the process,
mm,
or we could figure out a way when we have them intellectually engage them in the activity in the process. And I think I mean, some of your art teachers are probably, I mean, if I put it in art, not to say it has to be in only art, because I could see this being used in social studies and ELA and all the other stuff, right? But I mean, your art teachers probably are getting kids to kind of make these having these questions like what's presented, how is it presented, why is it presented that way, who's presenting it, what's being said here, how are you perceiving it through the lens that you have versus other lenses and all that kind of stuff. Like that that to me is where, if I could just say my 2 cents, which you probably know I would say, right, is like this is why I feel like schools have to jump in
Mm,
because otherwise kids are just, they're just spinning wheels and doing a lot of things, but they're not engaged in the intellectual activity of asking those questions.
mm,
What is it doing? How is it doing it? What do we
mm,
need to ask about it? How do I insert myself? How am I using my intellect, ingenuity, and creativity in processing the outputs? How do
mm,
I remain responsible for the outputs? Those are the big questions, I think, because this
mm,
this is, as William had just said, this is an AI world. In the next 4 to 5 years, it's an AI world.
mhm.
In either you're
Yeah,
I mean that's sorry.
yeah. It's like I couldn't agree more. It's the I can't you can't keep up. This the reading, the volume of like information that's coming out about AI and like it's just it's evolving so quickly that yeah, it is an AI world and it will be for the foreseeable future. And I think the sooner, like if you're thinking about using it for high school kids, like um, I would probably start someplace very simple, like the other project. I was helping another student where they were working on a children's storybook about children, like three Guatemalan or four Guatemalan children walking through a forest where they live in Guatemala. And it started off very sort of very nice images, very picture booky. But we started to play with the images more and put in additional images and different like crafting the prompts, and we started to get images that were that I thought were better and that were stronger. Let me just scroll through these. Yeah, here. And some of the images I thought were coming out like really beautiful. I thought they were crafted in a way that so if I was going to introduce it with students, depending on the class, like if you were doing a history class, you can ask them to use AI to recreate some significant moment in American history, whatever period you were focusing on. And I think that would be a great project for them. Um, but you could, if you were doing art, you could do a children's storybook about like growing up in their neighborhood or something like that. But yeah, if you're teaching it to students, that's like Dr. Unger said, it's like like crafting critical thinking into how they're using it is the I think the most very important tool, and how they can use it creatively. And I also found that having students collaborate with each other is great, and having them use AI to help them, having them use like ChatGPT to help them write prompts is also good. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I agree. I actually, the creativity thing is that struck me because I mean, just think about all the students that can't produce art well.
Mm,
Like this is their tool now to open their creativity. They can have this Midjourney or whatever tool can show their creativity if they're not an artist, which
yes.
is really
Yeah.
cool to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's because I mean I come from the old school where it was like I learned everything by hand. Like I learned to draw, to paint everything, sketch everything by hand. So when I look at an image like this, it's I'm like awestruck that it creates this image in just seconds because for me, I know how long it would take me to make this. And that's why I'm just like, wow, you can really accelerate this sort of creative process. And there's many studies that show that that have correlated quantity to quality. So the number of iterations that you go through in any creative endeavor have been shown to correlate to the the higher final quality that the result of the endeavor was. So whatever you come away with at the end, the number of iterations, um, the more work you do, the more quantity of work you produce, you come away with better stuff. And for me, this is like a catalyst for that. It's just AI is just a catalyst for creative output. It just you can go through these images and find things you like and change part of the image to get what you want. Whereas to do this by hand would just take days, you know what I mean? So and like you said, it's how many years does it take to learn the craft of a specific like painting or sketching to be able to create an image that's beautiful. Whereas now students can do it so quickly. But it's not to devalue what also comes along with the discipline to create the ability to create this. You know what I mean? Um, because those are skills that remain with you, and it's hard to pinpoint what they are in some ways, but they help. I think for me, what they help is having gone through the discipline to learn these skills helps give me the values to look at this and say, oh, this is great. This is very nice image. This is very good. You know what I mean? If I was teaching an art class and a student did this, I would be like, okay, we're going to find a scholarship for you because you're amazing. This is great, you know. But does that make sense? You know, it's like it's
Yes. Now, can I ask, how did you pick Midjourney over Firefly and Gemini and
so
uh,
Firefly is great. Firefly is great because it addresses inequity and bias. So if you ask it to generate some image, it also addresses like copyright protections. So like this image, this prompt wouldn't work because I wrote somewhere here. No, I didn't write here. But somewhere I wrote in the style of Leo Leone. Leo Leone was one of my favorite children's author. I have three kids, and I bought every book that he wrote, and that was in the original prompt that I wrote for this. These I think are just other ones, but yeah, let me see. Um, yeah, in the style of Leo Leone. So that would not work in Firefly because Firefly protects, even if the work is not copyrighted, if it sees a name like that in the style of, it won't do it because it. I don't use Firefly a lot. I've seen other people use it a little bit, and we talked about this copyright protection that it has. So, but I got into Midjourney because I guess it's just like anything else. I saw a lot of other architects and designers were using it, and I was like, let me see what this is about. And I played with DALL-E a little bit also, but I got into the newbie room in Midjourney in Discord, and I just saw like all these people creating these images, and it was like a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? It's like I just went in, and I was like, wow. So I created this one like Microsoft Word document. I think it's like 268 pages, where I would like see someone's prompt that I thought was cool, and I would copy it and I would paste it in the Word document. And then I would look at the prompt that they wrote, and I would look at the words that they chose, and that's how I started to grow my awareness of like, oh, you really got to pick your words right, and sometimes less words is better, you know. But yeah, so I guess I just got into this one, and I didn't really do a critical analysis of all of them. I just started using this, and I felt like architecturally I was able to. Let me just jump down here somewhere. Yeah, architecturally I was able to create spaces um,
it's
that to
great to
me
see
were.
the tools. So I'm glad I saw this.
Yeah, I don't know what yeah, so architecturally I was able to create renderings of space using certain words like apricity, golden hour, serene, sublime, and it was able to give me the kind of space that I wanted in my mind to make. So whereas DALL-E, I didn't get that same sense. And I haven't played with Firefly enough to know. So, but for me, this is the kind of feeling that I was going for in that, you know. But
It's super impressive. I mean, all these images, the Martin Luther King one, that was
yeah.
incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Good
uh,
stuff.
I'm sorry, Dr. Unger.
Oh, that was great. That was fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, so yeah, like for like for the Martin Luther King image and the Frederick Douglass images, like to me, it's almost like a time. It feels a little bit like a time machine because it can give you perspectives that were not recorded in history. You know, you can. I mean, we can do one. Dr. Unger, should we do one? You want to just do a prompt and then let me see how we're doing on time here. Um, yeah, let me just go copy one maybe from here. Uh,
They all create different things. Oof. I've been playing with all all the different ones, ChatGPT and Midjourney, and it's a lot of questions, Dan, right?
Whole lot. Just adding to the pile.
It's like really awesome. Yeah, that Midjourney is pretty cool though. I think it's like I think I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think I don't know. I can what's my Midjourney? What's my account here? What does it say?
Did we lose William?
I think we did. I think yeah, I don't know if you wanted to play with it. It's I signed up for there's a basic plan. It's $10 a month.
Okay,
I mean,
that's easy.
but it's crazy. I mean, you see the images he was creating?
Yeah, it was. I haven't seen anything like that in the other ones. So,
Oh no, no, no. It's I mean that's why I showed you the Chat GPT one because it was like the other ones are like the photograph. I mean, it's unbelievable.
yeah, that
Super
was impressive.
crazy.
Yeah,
Well, I know we were beyond the time crunch here, so I'll stay on and see if he comes back if you want to hop off. But
yeah.
it's yeah. You're on the what are you on the EPAM one or are you on the
EPAM, yes, EPAM.
there he is.
There he is.
sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that. My internet connection here is not so good. So either that or the powers that be are not.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're at time, so we're gonna but super interesting.
Yeah,
Super,
thank you.
Dan is taken by I'm trying to twist his arm a little bit and get the spend the it's $10 for a month for the Midjourney. It's not bad.
No, not for all
But it's
that.
very I think the Midjourney, I don't know, it's so interesting to play with all of them. And there's so many questions that come up about like what does one give you that the other doesn't and how and why and all that stuff. But the Midjourney for sure is the much more sort of like very detailed.
Mm. I agree. I agree 100%. And I have no interest in this. I just divested entirely from all technology stocks. So I have no, in full disclosure, I get no benefit from this, but
Listen,
I use Midjourney too.
Midjourney guy, yeah, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and listen, if you're interested in developing more like how you might use this for high school students, like just let's set up a time in this semester and I'm happy to sit down with you. We could work on a history course or whatever class you teach or you're interested in teaching. Like,
You know, it would be a fun thing. You guys can disregard what everything I say, but you know, what would be really interesting, Dan, is if you found like two, maybe three other colleagues at the high school, social studies or art or something, and just say, hey, this guy is a little wacky, but he's doing this journey stuff. No, I'm
yeah,
just,
yeah.
and like, and you gotta just show him, just have him, that would be, have the
I'm a
conversation.
hundred percent. I'm 100% on board with that, Dan. If you want, I'd be more than happy to give a demonstration. Like, I'm like I've been doing that recently at some other schools, and I'd be happy to help you. Just let me know. And I'm serious. So
No, I appreciate that because it's I know there's some the art teachers at the high school are very yeah they would be into this. Some of this be really into this.
and
So
Yeah, but I
I'm not
remember
that.
I said be selective. Get a couple people who are interest, not automatically antagonistic to the idea. You got to find the people who are
yeah,
interested.
we've got
Yeah,
those too.
yeah. We're not that far apart, so just let me know. I'm in Worcester, so
Sure.
yeah.
Thank you. That was great. So I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan.
All right, good to see you guys.
All
Thank you,
right.
Dr. Unger.
That's great. Thanks, William.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay.
Thanks, Dan.